Hey, hey, Blue Table fans! Yes, that gave you a chance to turn the volume down. Or maybe the quiet. Maybe we'll turn the volume way up. Maybe I should do it that way. All right then. So, yesterday, Blue Table Painting had a birthday. 15 years! It's driven me quite mad! Alright, that's enough of that. I actually thought of doing like this huge video and like, here's the whole history of how it's happened. And then I thought, you know what? That's boring to talk about the past. And I can't really talk about the future since I have a vision, but not ambition. Meaning, I just really, I love how it is right now. It's fantastic. So, how is it right now? So, Blue Table Painting is a very humble operation. I have my wonderful workshop, which you see. I think if you dig enough, you can see me like just give a little tour of it. Nothing fancy. But I love it. I love being here. I handle, right now there's, I think the count was 38 projects in the pipe. And I actually went back and in 2011, when we were moving into the giant studio, there were about 70 projects going. And I considered life to be very simple at that time. Yeah, so I started in 2003. I will tell you how it started, though, because some of you may not have heard this story. Some of the very, very, very few people that are still watching this channel. And by the way, thanks. I really appreciate it. I would love it. You know what? If you send me an email with like a topic, I'll be glad to sort of run with that. So just send me something to, give me something to work with, guys. Because who's here? Who's this like 300 people or 800 people? It depends on the type of video. If I put up a 40K thing, it still gets about 1,000 views, which is really good. I mean, I consider it a great honor that 1,000 people would look at the whatever it is I'm doing, you know. And I gotta tell you, sometimes I go cruise other channels. Most of the time I'm just have my head down and I'm worried about what I'm doing. And so I look at these other channels and I'm like, oh my God, I am doing, like, let me tell you, I'm not doing anything better than anybody else. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, well, wait a minute, Shawn, you know what you could do better than anybody else? Be yourself. See? You can only get me here. Yeah. All right, enough of that nonsense. So here's how it went down. I was an elementary school teacher in San Francisco. Tough neighborhood too. And one summer, needed some extra cash, and I was like, I gotta find a job, but who wants to hire someone for like 9 weeks, right? And then I would have to commute, of course, and I was like, oh boy. And I was down at my local shop, and I was lamenting to a friend of mine about this, and he said, well, Shawn, you paint stuff, because I loved to paint. Every week I had like new, even when I was working like a dog, I would still have a couple of new units every week to show off. And loved paint, just loved painting. Still do, by the way. I'm going to talk more about that. Ooh, yeah. Hold on. Late night painting. All right. So he was like, hey, why don't you just paint my dwarf army? And I was like, and this is when Warhammer Fantasy was a thing. So to paint a Warhammer Fantasy army was really something. And so I gave him his quote, and I had to like figure, I'm like, well, how much should you charge for this? And I went in, this whole time I've had to just make things up as I went along. I don't know how to run a company. You know, I didn't have any training in it. I just sort of started doing it and just sort of growing and growing. So anyway, So I painted his dwarfs in 3 days. And I mean, like, I just couldn't get enough. I just rocked them. And then as he was peeling off the bills, the money, I was like, oh, this is awesome. If only I could do this. And of course, the next week, I had a couple of the other guys were like, hey, I heard you finished so-and-so's army in like a week. I'm like, yeah. And they said, well, can you do mine too? And so I kept having more and more people, and it just grew and grew from then. So that summer of 2003 was when I found out that my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, throat cancer. And so I was in San Francisco still. He was still back in Oregon. Talked to him every day, and he really encouraged me to follow my dreams. He always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I remember I actually went up there twice to visit with him, and the first of the 2 visits, he was still doing pretty good, and we were standing on a balcony like out in the backwoods in the mountains, and I mean like you'd go out to the road and you could see the eagles flying by underneath you. Like, that's how steep this was. And he was he said, Shawn, don't wait, live your life now. And that really stuck with me. And so he passed away in December, and in January I quit my cushy government job and just started painting miniatures. And it was a risk. I didn't really know how it was going to turn out. People would say, hey, how's the thing coming? And I'd be like, well, check me in a couple months and see if I'm crying. And because I had no idea that it would just keep rolling and rolling exponentially. And I got to be a part of something wonderful. This is really an emerging industry, and there's not too many chances you get to be a part of something that just is developing sort of for the first time. And all right, so I'm not going to talk about anything in the 15 years. Just like, where am I now? I'm in happy land. It's great. I have this solid base of clients, and I just take care of them. And I don't have to worry so much. And that's really nice. So, that said, looking out at the landscape now, and again, I don't spend much time looking at what other people are doing. And I gotta say, I wish I could like shake the hands of some of these guys that have built up painting companies. They've done really well. And I've seen some of them crash and burn, horribly I might add. Like, it's not pretty to have a business go down. And now basically there's like a zillion soloists. That I didn't predict. I thought there would be some like mid-level things going on with like 20 or 50 workers. Oh no. It fragmented down to just like gig economy stuff. So there you go. That's what it is. So yeah, that's where blue table painting is right now. I've got, I've found a good number of projects, about 30 to 50 maybe. I've said 40, I think, before, that I wanted to get it down to 30. 30 is a little, for the crew that I have, that's a little tight. So, because you don't want to have too few things. You want to have like a little reserve. You want to have like a reservoir, and you can sort of pull from that and make sure that your talent is busy. There's that. All right. So my current crew is awesome. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. I don't think I've had to bring on a new person for like 6 months, probably longer. I am right now, but it's been a while, and that's good. I think what happened is I got to a point where I was like, all right, it feels like I'm forcing everything. Like I sort of have to windmill my arms to make it all go. And I thought to myself, well, what would happen if I didn't do any, if I just sort of let it just sort of be itself? What would happen? So I let the company sort of like come down to this resting level. And it did. It was really quite wonderful. And there's like this equilibrium, and it's a reflection of what's going on within me, which is I have equilibrium in my life too. I have, like, I'd like to do things or see things happen, but I'm not sure how to go about, like, making it happen, and I don't feel inclined to make things happen. So, yeah, maybe I should talk more about that at some point in time. A move from ambition to meaning. All right. So in other news, I've been putting up about 3 lots a day in the Webstore, and it's definitely worth checking out now. I created a new section, so you can check the liner notes of this video for a link to the Blue Table store. And yeah, I got a lot of good stuff up there. I've got secondhand, unpainted things, super cheap, and then I've got really awesome painted things that are up there. I think I have at least a couple, maybe 2 or 3 armies up right now. Sold quite a few of them in the last couple months. You know, if I don't use something in 6 months, man, it's time to let go. Oh, role-playing games. Oh, man. So the miniatures battles game that I'm playing right now is Dungeons & Dragons. And I was playing Pathfinder for the longest time. I love Pathfinder, love Paizo, but I gotta tell you, loving 5th edition. And I don't think they're revamping it anytime soon. As a side note, I was looking at my books, and so I have like this many 40K books now. I'm missing a few of them, actually. I think I'm missing 2 or 3. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just to keep up with all the books for the different games I'm doing. Jeez, well, like with 40K, you got to buy a new book every month. That's like a $50 a month subscription. Like, that is just, I can't get past it. And I look at the stack of books this high from 7th edition that I bought, and I'm like, oh, those are all garbage now. And I bought all the books for 6th edition. I bought all the books for 5th edition. Did I buy them for 4th? Yeah, I probably did. Yeah, and then for Warhammer Fantasy 2 and for War Machine. And I'm just like, oh, how many books have I thrown in the garbage? So I don't know. Something has to break. I really, like, they can't keep redoing it every 4 years. I mean, I really hope 8th edition just sort of like sticks and just sell me some updates, you know? And it makes me sort of not want to do it anymore. I gotta tell you, in recent years, that's one of the mental snaps. That's like buying all the books. I wonder, what would it be like if I did an hour-long video like this every day just talking? That'd be like a radio show. One-man podcast. Or whatever. Okay, so role-playing games. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got it. So, oh, and by the way, there's a cold snap in Utah going on. It's in the single digits. I know, you'll be like, you don't know what it's like in Minnesota, in Canada, in Alaska, in the North Pole. It's like, yeah, I get it. But for me, it's cold. But it's good, because one of my side hobbies that you may not know about is I collect pea coats. Love them. And got a few gaps in my collection. Okay, so role-playing games. So I am running a 5th edition D&D game with my kids, and I'm combining, hold on, where is it? There it is. Last one I looked at. I'm combining these 2 things. Rise of Tiamat and Dragon Heist. And all my, I've run my group from level 1 to level 10. I do milestones. I don't keep track of experience points. They just, at the end of the session, will be like, hey, did we level up? I'll be like, yes, or maybe next time. I'm going to let them be at 10th level for a while. So those 2 actually go together really well. I mean, it's good. It's good. All right, so 5th edition. So I have a D&D game, and that's with my kids, by the way. It's my 2 teenage sons, my 10-year-old daughter, and the girlfriend who is 16, I think. And so I run it with them. I'd love to get another person at the table for that one. I think that would actually be very helpful. And obviously I have my wonderful workshop that I love, a great place to play the game. It's really neat. I really feel good about my situation nowadays. It makes me happy. Happy inside my dark little cold heart. All right, so the other game that I'm doing is Starfinder, and that is with 2 of my artists who I adore, by the way, just great human beings. That's Vero and Tom. You've actually met them and seen pictures of them on the Blue Table Painting Facebook page. And then my 2 sons. And I'd really love to get a third group going. I think Starfinder is probably going to wrap up in the foreseeable future. And I don't know. I'll just have to feel that out, I guess. I really want to run a science fiction game based using the champions system, which is a point buy, like a point cost, character point thing. And I love that system. I just love it so much. And I've got great ideas for sci-fi. I've been collecting sci-fi stuff. In fact, for Starfinder, I started collecting sci-fi figures, and then and it's actually kind of creeping up on the Warhammer Fantasy stuff. Like there's quite a bit of it. And of course you've seen videos of that. They don't get many views. I get it. You guys aren't interested in Deep Madness and my whatever it is, civilian figures, you know. But that's what I'm doing. So yeah, I've been painting Deep Madness and then just random role-playing figures. The thing is, like, I get trades or there's like extras or misorders or whatever, and I just put them together. And I used to just sort of have them on the shelf, but now I've started putting them on the Webstore, because then at least maybe, you know, if I don't use them, then somebody can pick those up. Aspiring Warlord program. Oh man! So I started a new, well, how do I explain this? Okay, so for many, many years, maybe once or twice a year, I've offered wholesale accounts. So you pay a certain amount, and then you get an elevated amount of assembly and painting credit. And let me tell you, I've got plenty of takers for these things. Of course, I don't let it get out of hand, but I've discharged so many of them over the years. I won't tell you the number, but it's a lot. And so, like, for example, you would pay $2,000 and then you would get a $3,000 credit. And I was thinking to myself, you know what would be awesome would be if it were staggered into chunks, so the common man could access that. And they go up, like the old special was called Hero of the Imperium. And so, I mean, they would go up to like 6,000. 6,000 for 10,000. And by the way, that's quite a few armies to get painted. But as you can see, guess what? Armies are still rolling off the line here. So, Aspiring Warlord is a little different. It's effectively the same thing, but you just chunk it out over the course of a year. So, you pick your program, and then you make your 12 installments, and then you just sort of use the credit as you go along. So, there's a pretty obvious trade-off here, is that I get sort of a sustainability over time, and you, of course, get a reduced price on your assembly and painting. And it gets even better because you get wholesale pricing on your models. That's the 3 parts of building an army. Acquire the models, assemble the models, paint the models. Well, the credit is for assembly and painting, but you also get to tap into our wholesale pricing for the duration of us doing your project. So anyway, if you want details, I'm going to put a link in the liner notes. It's a great program. I'm really excited about it. I've actually wanted to do like a whole video on it to really promote it, and then I'm just like, nah, all right, here we go. This is it. If it has merit, obviously people will be interested in it. All right, since I need a drink of water and I'm at 20 minutes. That's awesome. Late night painting. So I've always loved painting. And my dream is, you know what, I do need to take a sip of water. Hold on. Thank goodness. Okay, so yeah, after my work is done, sometimes I'm just here late and I put on some Hulu and just paint models. And then next thing I look up, it's like 11 o'clock, it's midnight. And I love it. I can't get enough of painting. I'm just like a regular, like I don't need some fancy paint station. I just set up my old simple thing. It's really neat. It makes me happy. Work with my hands. I still have loads and loads of bits, so I make these little tiny, you know, conversion. Like the smallest thing can make a model special, a replacement weapon, a pack, some extra equipment, a head swap. You know, it doesn't take much to turn a piece into something unique. So I absolutely love that. Still really, really love painting. Well, guys, I think that is it. Oh, where's my list? Make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I'm a huge fan of Black Mirror, and they have an episode called Bandersnatch out, and it's a choose your own adventure thing, right? And I read an article where it was that there's a total of 5 hours of footage, and like some of it's super hard to find. Like some of these tree things are hard to find. So what they did is, because if it's choose your own adventure, it's like a tree that sort of forks out, right? So it would be finite. But what they did is they made it so in some cases you have to like repeat certain things. Like there's other things you have to do that open up a new branch. And I'm just like, oh, that's just evil. So there's like little Easter eggs. So believe me, there's going to be a map of this episode published at some point in time by diehard fans. And all right, well, that's really. Oh, let me tell you about this TV show I'm watching. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and here's to many, many more years. I love what I'm doing. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you the dream. So in my dream scenario, it's a Valhalla-like wooded estate, and it has a retreat on it that's just doing its normal business. That's not me. Like, I don't want to run anything, but I live there, and I have a workshop, and if I want, and there's resources available, and if I want, I can just invite artists, and there's lodging, there's plenty of resources, there's food, and artists just come and we all work on these giant projects and then have people come out and be a part of what it is that we're doing. And that's sort of my dream scenario. And for the time being, I'm just really enjoying doing everything in miniature. Like my own family, friends of mine are involved in what it is that I'm doing on a smaller scale. And it's good. It's really good. So, all right, well, stay tuned. Many, many, many more years to come. Yeah, thanks.